everyone here. Good morning. I will request that we start this session by observing just 2 seconds of silence as a sign of prayer. Thank you. Thank you so much. If I may just start by introducing the team from education. We have our DDG, who's on my immediate left, DDG Rachel Kati. And this is for the benefit of the media houses colleagues. I know the other colleagues were here in the morning when introductions were made. We also have Uta Tumkida, who is the DDG for IOM on the left of Uta Tukwakati. I will ask the guests to introduce themselves because I was not here when they were introduced. Oh, this is the Speaker of the municipality. Thank you so much, Speaker. We have our Honorable MEC, Utatu Fundilekate. On his left, it's our HOD, Umamu Sharon Mastor. And on the left of the HOD, we have Mr. Makopieni from UWC. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you will introduce yourselves at an opportune time. When there's space for asking questions and getting responses to those questions. Without wasting any more time, I'll allow the MEC just to take us through the media statement today so that we get on with our business. Thank you. Over to you, Honorable MEC.
No, thanks. Program Director, let me take this opportunity to greet you, to greet DPE, DDG, also the top management of the department, the media houses that are here, the Sarah Batman and Dlambe municipality leadership that are hosting us today. We have taken a decision, colleagues, to give a proper feedback into the public on the task ahead of us as a provincial government in the form of the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape. Part of the assignment is to ensure that during this period, you are giving a reflection on what could be the task that has been done by the sector, which is a constitutional function of the sector. You'll remember that we are a Department of Basic Education. From time to time, you are required to make a proper reflection on whether the system is capable of giving us the skill and the knowledge that is required through it via the learners that we have and also the infrastructure that we have in the form of the educators that have been appointed in the system. So it's that learner attainment improvement strategy today that we must give a reflection on. So let me take my hat off for the members of the media houses for having there is stability in the sector. There is a reason for all of us to make sure that we prioritize the future of the nation in ensuring that we minimize our interest as individual sectors within the sector itself, but become glued into what then becomes the national agenda of ensuring that the learners are capable of progressing. But also take my hat off to the religious sector, the SGBs, and also sector, the corporate sector within education in the province. But lastly, to appreciate the local government as a sector and a sphere. They continue to be part of our journey providing bursaries for the kids, providing support systems for the kids, and also making sure that at least our schools are accessible, precisely because the function of roads is with them and also the Department of Transport. So if they were not there, again, would not be where we are today. So I feel I must take note of that, colleagues. But however, we are gathered here today in this fashion of marking the last mile of our preparations for the 2024 National Senior Certificate Examinations. We term this phase the last push of this or so. The Sarah Batman District Municipality and Lambeth Local Municipality for the unwavering support of the grade 12 class of 2024 in this particular area. This is one area that I've already said that with the collaboration and understanding that we have with other entities and also other government spheres, we have been able to make a mark. The 2024 examinations are a huge, and the numbers have improved in the province. And it becomes a worrying factor, but quite a positive one, as I have said earlier on, because currently we have got 117,762 learners that will be undertaking the writing of the National Senior Certificate Examinations in 2024. Quite a very huge number, which then is a reflection that there is an improvement of learners, in particular in the FET band in the Eastern Cape Department of Education. Of course, you can attribute that to a number of facets of interventions that have been done, either via corporate governance, either via the local municipalities that I've talked about, and also the dedication and commitment of the sector, and also the educators that we have, the breed of the educators that we have in the province. The 102,073 full-time candidates, and 15,698 of those learners are part-time candidates. So it shows that the system is maturing, but equally is becoming more attractive to various areas of focus. Hence, you could increase. It means an increase on the infrastructure planning. Once learners increase, and the results increase, it means also increase on the human resource that must be appointed via either teachers or psychosocial services or whatever technical support that is going to be needed. So there is always a room for making sure that when the system is growing, there must always be innovation to take that system up and also make sure that it doesn't fail and collapse with the kids of the people. In terms of the goals that we have set for ourselves, colleagues, on the last push that we are launching today, the overarching goals of this NSC examinations last push constitute the last support in terms of the framework that we have adopted. One is the increase of the numbers and the quality of grade 12 pass in 2024 that we must be focusing on. The improvement of the quality of bachelor passes in the National Senior Certificate Examinations, again, that must also improve from what we had in the previous academic year. But also improve the number of the distinctions in grade 12, improve the number of the passes in mathematics and science, improve the overall throughput rate in line with the national norms and standards. We are putting an emphasis on maths and science. I think you have noted that. The reason is that this is a maths and science province. If you want a throughput overall, you must master the art and skill of ensuring that maths and science is being passed. Precisely because the Eastern Cape has got more learners that are doing pure maths and pure physical science. They are close to 38,000, if I'm not mistaken. There are close to 38,000 kids that are doing math and science here. So in essence, it means your strategic focus, your strategic intervention aspects of examinations during this period. We implore the districts to strengthen monitoring of teaching and learning in their schools. We are employing again the subject advisors to identify areas of intervention and develop sources, revision material that will strengthen the revision and also the consolidation of the classes. The teachers to adhere to all policy prescripts in the lessons in the past. What have you picked in the process? And what then becomes your intervention? Now, it then says you needed a scientific researched methodology to deal with this, and which the province have been able to pick it up. And hence we are talking of ensuring that the districts manage and monitor this process, and also subject advisors identifying weaknesses in the processes. The team of the Eastern Cape colleagues have visited KZN during the beginning of the year. The reason DDG TPE was to look at the commonalities between Eastern Cape and KZN, but equally look why Eastern Cape and KZN consistently have improvements of results. If you look very closely in terms of the national examination analysis, KZN is consistently improving results academically around 7% every year. Eastern Cape is improving results around 5 to 5.5 almost every academic year. So there are similarities. But we then said, fine, look at what is best that they are doing differently from what we are doing. And we picked up that their strategies more focusing on subject advisors and ETOs, which then gives them a leverage of coverage in terms of how many schools that are best performing in this particular circuit and why. So that you don't have a single principal of a school in a circuit that is performing and the rest is not performing. So how do you spread the capacity and the skill of this individual principal via the circuit management methodology, so that you can spread and multiply that capacity and the skill? So basically, that's the approach this academic year, so that you can be able to multiply as much possible as you can in ensuring that you deal with any deficiency that has been there in the past in the system, but also live to the expectations of the targets that you have set for yourself. Remember, the Eastern Cape people have said we must get 85%. That one is scientific, that one is researched, that one is going to be achieved. By the way, it has been achieved in the first quarter during the course of the year. The task here is to maintain what has happened in the first quarter by March. It's not just about getting that 85%. 85% we a long time got it in the first quarter. So how do you maintain the momentum? And how do you push the system to the limit so that it doesn't crack, but also it doesn't fail the people of the province and also the kids that we're talking about? That is going to need resources. What resources have we put in place to make sure that the strategy does succeed? Now, the department has availed an array of resources, colleagues, that are available to learners for support and the consolidation. That includes the followings. One, an exams readiness booklet to inform revision and last push activities. Abantwana funeka bayazi ba intoni elindelekileyo kwi-examinations, both in terms of content and also in terms of psychosocial readiness. Ubu-ready bomntana ekokufunda memorize what is written on the book. Emotionally, are they ready? Have you been able to eliminate social ills that could disrupt them in the process of writing examinations? So that's what basically we're talking about here. Hence we're saying, bring that readiness booklet so that they can be able to make sure that both in terms of content and also in terms of form, these kids are ready. Target the static guides in high enrollment subjects dealing with the challenges of the topics. Our teachers have been able to identify what are these topics that consistently are becoming a problem in the country. And how do you use the privilege that you have as a province of having the best teachers in the country? The mathematics best teachers are here in the province for the country. The science teachers are here, the best ones in the province. So how do you have a leverage on that? And how do you utilize the targeted high enrollment subjects? Because beyond the quality of the results, you need to make sure that kids get through the process. But of course, your eyes not being taken out of the results that are expected. The past question papers that must be made available, downloaded by the department through its own website, make it available to all kids in the province, make it available to all kids in the districts, make it available to them such that they can even utilize it post the academic period within the timetables that they have. So that right through the period, you are able to ensure that you minimize disruptions to those kids. From a government's point of view, again, utilize the broadcasting studios that we have just launched now. Take all those good, expert, senior teachers in the province to broadcasting studios, so for the benefit of all learners in the system. If, for example, I'm a good maths teacher, I must then be converted into a provincial teacher, not a school-based teacher. So that all those kids that are doing the same subject that I'm teaching, they are able to benefit out of the expertise that I have. So that's the strategy. Hence, we launched the broadcasting studios at that particular time. So for the benefit of the entire ecosystem of learning that we have. But also the broadcasting lessons via Umhlobo Wenene. The memorandum of understanding that we have with the Umhlobo Wenene Radio FM. How do we utilize it so that kids can be able also to benefit out of that? In terms of the readiness, colleagues, because we must also put logistics in place so that we can be able to make sure that we don't fail those kids. I am happy to announce that we are ready for the 2024 examinations in all respects, colleagues. As you may all recall, we are responsible for the examinations of all grade 1 to grade 12 learners in the province. And that includes public schools, approved independent schools, as well as approved designated examination centers for learners in improving their results. The public examinations are generally used to satisfy students who have reached a prescribed level of learning, as well as selected learners for the next level of education system or for the employment. They are defined primarily in terms of their purpose, to certify and select students based on an assessment of their achievements in the curriculum area. To ensure that the 2024 National Senior Certificate Examination is credible and error-free, the department is judged on how it manages the following 8 areas. This is very important. Kids can pass, kids can fail. What is the credibility of the product? How do you make sure that the process is credible and has got an integrity? Because remember, grade 12 examinations in particular has got an international undertone. Some of the kids here may not learn here in terms of the tertiary institutions in the country. So you must meet the international standards here. Beyond the national standards, you must meet the international standards. And therefore, what are these areas that needed to be checked up, which the system, we have been able to do that? And if you look very closely to our own DDG, Jwakati, our performance, beyond just 81%, 4% pass rate, we have been able for the past 3 years to have examinations-free incident examinations. That's one area that needed to be closely monitored. So we need to make sure that our centers and learners are accurately registered. No mistake. All eyes on the ball. Register centers and learners properly, meticulously, so that there are no coming backs of any kind. High quality question papers of the appropriate standard. No leakages, no what. So as to maintain this international undertone that I'm talking about. Because more than them having passed, what is the national integrity of the papers that we wrote to those nations that might absorb those kids when they pass here? So beyond just being passed, what then becomes a security feature in terms of ensuring that there are no leakages, there are nothing, everything has to be properly managed. To secure the moment of the question papers from origination to the examination venues. I was talking to the HOD and the DDG, DPE, and I was saying, if the country wants us to proceed quite very well in education, not in education in fact, somebody must take a bold step on rural development strategy and not localize about this. Stop localizing about rural development. For example, if there could be a disaster here or a storm of rain, what are you going to do? Are you going to say Department of Education must build roads? So you need a very well-structured, coordinated, aggressive rural development strategy in this country so that schools are accessible. Whether rain comes, whether rain does not come, you don't have an excuse of having to go for an alternative paper. Why? Because the rain has disrupted the examinations ecosystem. So I'm saying, this security talks to that. You are not going to take papers and put them elsewhere. Why? Because rain can come. No. There are policies that regulate examinations here. And I'm saying for you to realize that objective, you need to go beyond the sector's policies and say, from a government's point of view, what is it that we are not doing properly? What is it that needed to be checked up? How do you secure the integrity of the national projects that you are engaged on? And hence I'm saying, this is the summer season. And you have got lessons in the past that you must not take them for granted, so that you don't subject kids into unnecessary psychological trauma of having to postpone papers on the basis that there has been rainfall or there's been disasters in one way or another. So I'm making this particular call that there must be rural development that deals quite aggressively on rural development so that we can be able to make an achievement that is noticeable on a number of a range of issues. Also, colleagues, the issue of the marking of the appropriate standard applicable to every examination script, that belongs to us. We've got credible markers, credible educators that understands the language that must be used, that understands what must be done, the accuracy of resulting, the detection of management of irregularities. We must pick that as early as possible and avoid it. Because remember, once there is an irregularity of any kind in any kid, that kid is suspended for three consecutive examinations in terms of the police in this country. If by any chance a teacher becomes excited and makes the kids to copy, the victim of that process is more a learner than a teacher, because that learner will have to be suspended for 3 consecutive examinations in this country. So that's why we must avoid any irregularity. We must avoid any irregularity that could cost dearly those kids. That the issue of the certificates on time, to deal with the issue of emotions the parents have, to deal with the issue of the kids psychological and emotional wise. Hence, I'm saying to you earlier on, this is a very sensitive period. If we don't psychologically deal with the state of readiness of the kids, they usually take their lives. They usually take their lives once they are not sure of what is going to happen to them. So you must be very sensitive. So it's not just about writing examinations, it's about making sure that these kids are sustained moving forward, and nothing that must psychologically disrupt them in the process. So hence I'm saying, for us, it's more than just writing an examination and get a pass. The scope and scale of the assessment in the province, colleagues, as we are closing, the department is fully ready to conduct, administer all forms of assessment. We are legally required to undertake the followings: public examinations for the National Senior Certificate qualifications, grade 11 provincial examinations are currently going to be underway. Grade 9 GEC pilot for 203 schools is underway. AET examinations on behalf of DET is currently underway. Grade 3 pilot assessment on the provincial ready strategy for 202 primary schools at 11,200 learners in Sarah Batman is currently underway. The key timelines that we must all observe. We're working within a regulated environment here. We're working within a regulated environment here. The key timelines that must be observed by everyone here. The period starting from the 18th of October to 16th of January is set aside for several critical public examinations activities, as namely as the following. 1, the writing of the National Senior Certificate as from the 21st of October 2024 to 28th of November 2024. Please note that the candidates shall receive their individual timetables, admission letters on the 16th to 17th of October, so that you are within the regulated period. You are within the regulated period. The examination material, the so-called mark sheets, admission letters, CAT and IT, and the attendance registers will be printed on the 4th to 11th of October. Strictly. not 5 minutes afterwards, not 2 minutes before, strictly on the scheduled time, so that you don't create any suspicion in the process, and you don't create any messaging that might come back and haunt you. The distribution of the school-based assessment mark sheets to schools from the 12th to 13th of October, the distribution of exam material, including admission letters for all candidates, will be collected by the district on the 9th to 11th of October. SBA marks capturing will take place on the 28th of October to the 17th of November. That's one area that you must mark. Remember, in terms of the standards in the country, you have got a school-based assessment, which is 25%. And that capturing must be done at that particular period. And it is regulated. There are no fixing up of anything there. You just have to do it according to the letter of the book. The mop-up, including irregularities, will be done on the 16th of December at the head office, that is in the TPE. If there is any irregularity in any province, by the 16th of December, that must be done. So that you don't keep parents waiting, you don't keep those kids waiting, and ended up taking their lives. So you just have to stick to the book and make sure that everything that is done accordingly to the book. Checking of the preliminary results by the district officials on the 2nd and 5th of January. Resulting will be done by the 7th of January by the systems administrator and assistant systems administrator. Downloading of the results by the USAF on the 15th of January. That is what is expected, colleagues, in the sector. So if you listen to us, it's preparation of kids from the beginning of the year, preparation of kids before they write examinations, preparation of kids and monitoring them during the examinations, making sure that systems are meticulously applied to, making sure that you respond to the prescripts to the latter of the sector. And then that will give you the credible results that the nation wants. And there will be few questions about the integrity and the credibility of the results that must be given by the country to the nation. Let me thank all of you for having attended, and I wish the 2024 grade 12 class a good luck in their national examinations, but also at the back of their mind that the province expect nothing less than that 85%, which they have already done in the first quarter and in other quarters, so that you reposition the province and reclaim the lost ground. But critically to that is to build a system that is responsive, but equally making sure that the kids don't just pass, but access tertiary institutions. So there is going to be a need of a discussion about TTG, the absorption rate of the higher institutions in the country. It's going to be a thorn in the flesh of DPE that will produce a huge number of learners that pass, but there is a lesser absorption of them when it comes to higher education. So that discussion must begin and be able to unlock any bottlenecks. If it is about the points, let's open up and discuss that. There is no single household that sends kids in order for them to get a certificate. The reason households are sending kids to schools is for those households to have their lives changed. So if then this issue of numbers came and also is quantified in terms of the socio-economic conditions of those households, is responding to that question, then the system is capable of building a learned nation, and a system is capable of rejuvenating, rebuilding the economy that we have, because the skills are produced here. This is a skills center. So when you talk about skills in the country, you are talking of basic education. So that's why I'm then saying we just have to make sure that we are meticulous in that particular plan. Thank you, DDG, and thank you, HOD, and thank you, the program director.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Honorable MEC. And colleagues, I think you have heard the MEC saying that we are not doing this alone as the Department of Education. I am sure it is the first time that in our media briefing you see a table full of, stakeholders, from everywhere, wanting to make sure that as the Department of Education, indeed, we achieve our targets that we set for our learners year in and year out. Colleagues, now it is that time that we allow members of the media to ask questions. And as we do that, we will introduce ourselves and indicate which media house one is coming from. So I'm giving you that opportunity, colleagues. Over to you. I'll see by people raising their hands, those who want to ask questions. There is that lady, Gapagosvich, that's number one. Any other hand, colleagues? Any other hand? Going once, twice, thrice, we close it. Okay, please shoot your question.
It was off. Okay. Good morning. I am Kwaita Tinginto from Kumgani FM. My question is, it was mentioned during the year that there are about 9,000 learners who have not seen a pass mark in their school report. So I wanted to find out if that has been given attention, because I don't want to assume that we have a system where we move forward with others leaving the struggling behind. Also, MEC, I need a clarity on this. I came across information that there are schools who are consistently getting 100% pass mark or pass rate, simply because when each and every year, when they look at the number of learners who have enrolled, and then they see that there's a certain portion or a percentage of learners who may jeopardize the 100% pass mark rate, then those who are struggling, who are not ready, who may jeopardize the pass rate, they won't write the final examination. Is there such thing? Is it irregular even? I need you to clarify that for me and also for the benefit of the public. Lastly, the new Minister of Higher Education suggested that the results needs to be issued earlier, so that NSFAS won't have to deal with the challenges and stuff like that. So this may probably be answered by the National Department, or it's a decision by the National Department, but I wanted to check if you've had information about that or if you welcome that suggestion. Thank you.
Manbulela kakhulu Phathi Nkqubo. Loyiso Makupola from Kulega FM by PCM Emondi. MEC, thanks for the time, opportunity to portray. Currently, the schools, particularly in the Nelson Mandela Metro, are faced with extortion that is taking the country by surprise in various forms in one way or another. Are there any measurements during this exam period to counter such unforeseen situations at schools where students, teachers, and the community at large are experiencing such activities. Two, we just heard that the new minister of basic education, Minister Kwahobe, has cancelled, I'm not sure how authentic its details of the feeding system or the nutrition. Will that not have any effect in the process of the exams? I must thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. In the absence of any more questions, I will allow the MEC to take care of the questions, but MEC akayedwanga ke colleagues.
Yeah.
Une-team elapha eceleni kwakhe. Thank you, MEC.
Yes, let me take the lighter one. The stronger ones would require gurus. I've got a very strong team here. Academics, they will take some of the questions, especially that deals with specifics and figures. Look, in terms of the progressed learners that you are talking about, it's a policy in education that kids, when they have not made it twice in a phase, they must be allowed to another phase. We have categorized and classified our schooling system into phases. The foundation phase, the intersec, which includes primary schooling, and also the FET phase. So the policy dictates that at least umntana funeka angahlali iminyaka emithathu and beyond in a phase ngenxa yoferisha. Funeka mosi phase yethu ne grades ezintathu. So funeka ahlale la manyaka emithathu kuba epasa kwezi grades, then buyaferisha then ahlala unyaka wesine, which means within the policy. But once aphinda ferishe, it means ngokungena kunyaka wesihlanu within a phase, not progressing. So that's the background of that policy on the progression of learners. Yes, it's a matter that the nation is looking very closely to, but the systems that we are currently engaged on as TPE, if you look in terms of how the then minister and the current minister is responding to this question, because it's a phenomenon that must not be there in the first place. Because once it becomes huge, it is a threat in terms of the throughput that you are getting out. Hence, you are talking about 9,000 plus of kids from grade 1 to grade 12 that could not, that are a product of progression. How do you deal with that? One, you need to take a special focus on the GETC band. That's why the minister reintroduces the GETC certificate in grade 9. Because between grade 1 and grade 12, there's been no barometer of measurement up until the minister then reintroduced the assessment tool in grade 9, so that you reduce the number of kids that could be progressively moving forward without the required norms and standards that could be there. But again, colleagues, in terms of the announcement of the results, remember, DPE has got a national calendar. It's a duty of the minister to make a pronouncement on a calendar of schools in the country. From the first day up to the last day, in a 3 consecutive period. For example, we have just adopted now the calendar from 2024 to 2026 in the country. So any plans that DPE is making must be within that framework of that 3-year planning from a calendar point of view. The reason the minister was raising this issue of bringing earlier on the announcement of the results was precisely because if you look very closely between January and March, that's a very sensitive period for admission and entry of the first entries in universities. But that could only be determined by whether the system has been able to appreciate that from the beginning of the academic year. So it's very difficult for you to either bring in earlier or to bring it a bit later when there is an adopted already calendar of the country at that particular time. So that's why we agreed that we will retain what it is now for the announcement in January, because you are not going to be able to tamper with the current setup. Because remember, you need to be meticulous on the examination and marking process, qualifying that, and there are bodies, your malusi, that must quantify the credibility of the results, wait for contestations if there are, and clarify them as well. So I'm saying it's a matter that we are looking very closely into, but requires an adjustment from a policy point of view of the entire ecosystem of the schooling that you need in the country. Lastly, for me, on the school nutrition program, there's been a discussion and a debate nationally that you need a different methodology on the school nutrition program. The reason for that argument and discussion is that you are worthing 13 billion value as Department of Education in the school nutrition program. In essence, what does it mean? It means Department of Higher Education is richer than the country on retail shops. Zonke ezi shops zithengisa ukutya, they worth 12 billion per annum. Now, the question ke ngoku, how do you usurp the 13 billion transaction of education in elevating and dealing with the socio-economic conditions of the people where these schools are residing? Are you just going to feed kids and allow them to go after school to the families where there is going not to be food? That was the question. Whilst you have got a 13 billion transaction in the same sector. Now, that's why then the minister then took a decision and presented in the CEM to say, let's have a different methodology where we are going to centralize the school nutrition program, buy into the food suppliers, the food manufacturers, the ones that ShopRite, Pick and Pay, Spar, Boxer buy food from. We don't buy food from them, we must buy from the manufacturers themselves. So that you have got an upscale of the value and also create job opportunities for the nation using that transaction. So that was the discussion. But of course, with all the challenges that it has, change of government and change of the policies here and there, then that has been stopped. But it doesn't change the necessity to relook into the current formula that we're using. And therefore, if we say, for example, thina pha Eastern Cape, sinike imali izikolo sihambe siyozithengela ukutya, it reduces accountability to us. Si-comfortable thina ilanto. But ingxaki yalanto, mna xa ndiyovula izikolo ndifike ngekho pha uPick and Pay, lo uthathe i-1 million rand esisikolo sakho. Ufuna kum inkomo yovula isikolo, wawugqiba unika uPick and Pay i-1 million rand, for example. So there is no social responsibility on the corporate retail that are getting that transaction back to the communities that they got that money. So how do you discipline them? How do you discipline them? Because it's by act, it's social relief, it's social responsibility
of the corporate to the communities that they serve. So how do you draw their attention to that act? And how do you make sure that you don't have a transaction of government that does not talk to the economic development? Ekupheleni kosuku kufuneka abantwana babantu bephangele. And bazaphangela njani? Ngeplani ihulumende asebenzisa imali yakhe right ngayo. So that is the discussion. And I'm then saying we are in that particular space. We have not yet resolved back as to what must then be happening now that that tender has been stopped, whether it is going to be reviewed or not reviewed is a discussion that the CEM will have to engage on. Because remember, in terms of the statutes in education, the decision of this sector lies in the CEM. It's a collective type, this one. It's a collective type. You don't take a decision as an individual. You must subject your views into that statutory body, which is the CEM. And therefore, the CEM will have to ventilate what must be done. But equally, colleagues, if, for example, the issues about centralization, remember this is the DORA funding. The DORA funding allows provinces to get their grant directly. What if, for example, I'm saying I want my 2.5 billion rands, because the Act allows me to do so? Because the DORA Act talks to provinces, not to national. So that's one area that needed to be cleaned up and be able to say, fine, this is how we are going to navigate. So I'm trying to say to you, there is no effect that is going to happen. We'll continue with giving schools trenches, buy their own food, up until a further notice. And you can't recklessly change a policy in the middle of the financial year, because you can't be reckless and result into kids not getting their food. So if there is change, it will be after the financial year, so that you manage the ecosystem of governance properly and you don't sacrifice kids on the basis of either a policy change that is going to come into that effect. Hence, I'm saying we're very much comfortable as a province. It's one area that we're mastering, by the way, the school nutrition program. Very few problems that we have. We don't have problems like in other provinces because we have got a very targeted approach on the school nutrition program. So hence I'm saying, if there are changes in the policy, because this is a grant system, it will have to go back to the CEM, and the CEM take a decision, and after taking that decision, surely it will be effect after the financial year. It can't be now, because it can tamper with a number. Remember schools, some of them are Section 21. They have already taken contracts. So you can't tamper with the contracts that some schools have now. So you needed to be quite cognizant of the policy environment that you are operating within, but also look at the ambition